Fish. A food source that goes pretty underutilized in Don't Starve. I mean, let's be real, when was the last time in a normal playthrough that you actually set up and fished for food? Overall, fishing, at least in Don't Starve Together's oceans, is way too time consuming to be effective for food, especially when you could just enslave a wormwood main and have enough food for years from farming. Maybe the crockpot recipes make it worth it, except they don't. Fish sticks are probably the most useful fish-based dish, and even those are outclassed by pierogies thanks to easy mass production. I mean, tell me, did you even know that ceviche was in the game? What about stuffed fish heads? It's clear that fish are such a niche food source that it's better to ignore them. But you see, fish have a second value. At least in Don't Starve Together, thanks to the fish scale-o-matic, you can have your very own pet fish. Much like pet fish in real life, they can't do much but sit there and be fish, I guess. But which fish would make for the cutest pet, in my opinion? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we are going to find out today as I rank every single fish and other capturable oceanic creatures from the world of Don't Starve Together, from most adorable to ugliest. Yes, I'm being for real, and no, I haven't run out of ideas for content. This is genuinely something I wanted to make. Either way, let's begin. We begin our list with the classic fish that everyone knows and loves, the freshwater fish. And man, are we starting this list off pretty weak. I mean, come on, this fish is downright scary. Beady, white eyes, and void black sclera? Yeah, no. These look straight out of Chernobyl. Not to mention the obviously sharp jaw. This is a fish that's meant to stay out in the wild, and lands itself right at the bottom of the list. F tier. Next up, the eel. Now, most of you are probably going to assume that I think the eel is pretty gross, judging by my last ranking. However, I actually think the eel is pretty cool. It reminds me of a moray eel, which is what I assume it's modeled after, and moray eels, well, they're pretty epic. I would totally have this creature as a pet, but there are other fish on this list that are cuter, so I'm putting the eel at B tier. Now we are on to the Don't Starve Together exclusive ocean creatures, starting with the smolt fry. This thing is literally a blue goldfish. I mean, cool? I guess they aren't anything special. You wouldn't catch me decorating my base with them, but you wouldn't catch me hating on them either. D tier. Next up, the needle-nosed squirt. Now, I think this fish is based off the long-nosed gar, and honestly, I don't get the gar hype. I mean, oh cool, you have a giant weird mouth, okay? Luckily for the needle-nosed, we aren't talking about gars here, but in-game, it's nothing that special either. Much like the smolt fry, I'm gonna put it in D tier. An incredibly average fish that I will gladly keep in the ocean, away from my base. Next up, the runty guppy. Now, this thing is very obviously based on the Oranda goldfish. You know, the one that looks so incredibly stupid that they actually managed to somehow look cute at the same time. I mean, come on, tell me that this thing doesn't look adorable. I would totally have this fish as a pet, but those eyes, they look haunted, man. C tier. Next up, the bitty baitfish. Now, I'm not actually 100% sure what this fish is based off of, but I gotta admit, this fish looks pretty cool. Mohawk, giant, dead eyes. This fish is one I would totally have in my house if it was like a messed up, evil, scary dungeon. C tier. Next up, the popper fish. And dude, do I even have to explain this one? I mean, look at it. It looks like a bulldog. It's absolutely adorable, and totally something I would keep as a pet. S tier. Moving on to the fall lounder. It's a leaf. What do you expect? I could just go to the store, buy a fish tank, wait until autumn, and throw some leaves in for the same effect that I would get from having this fish in the bowl. I mean, it has the same gimmick that stick bugs do, and sure, stick bugs are kind of cool, but I really don't care for leafy fish. F tier. Haha, get it? F for flounder. Next up, the cornfish. Now, this fish is everything it says it is. It's corn, and it's a fish. Uniqueness alone has to bump this fish up, but it is just a piece of corn with eyes. Regardless, I'm gonna put it in A tier. I'm not biased or anything, I swear. Next up, the spittlefish. And honestly, what is this creature? I mean, I can kind of see the fins and the eyes, but why does it have a helicopter blade for a mouth? I don't get it, it confuses me, it kind of scares me, and overall I just don't trust this creature near my home because he might spit on my food because I was cooking it with fire or something. F tier. Yucky, gross creature. I'm sorry, I'm being way too mean to the fictional fish. I'll try to lighten up. Did I say lighten up? Whoops, I lied. Next up is the deep bass. Now, this thing reminds me of a horrific sludge monster, and it's not even the actual sludge fish that's coming soon. It's got what looks like bags under its eyes, and I don't want to share a presence with something that clearly has seen horrors beyond its comprehension. D tier. Only because it at least actually looks like a fish. Speaking of things that look like fish, up next is the mudfish. Now, based on my previous ratings, you would expect me to put this guy pretty low, right? Well, I actually kind of respect this guy. There's no gimmick to him, and he's true to his word. He's a muddy fish. You get what you paid for here. I would trust this fish to do my taxes, honestly. B tier. Next up, the spring fish, bloomfin tuna. White, beady eyes, giant parasitic-looking flowers sprouting out of its head. I would honestly be scared that I'm going to catch some sort of disease being even near this fish. It's unique, sure, and would probably be fun to have in like a greenhouse or something, but it's just scary, dude. D tier. Only because it's at least slightly cooler than the fall lounder with its dumb, stupid eyes. Next up, the black catfish. And honestly, catfish are the coolest fish ever. I mean, have you seen these things? They can get up to the size of a shark, and they just kind of vibe around in freshwater ponds and rivers and whatnot. And Clay decided they want to up the ante by making their catfish one of the coolest colors. Wait a minute, these exist in real life too? Look at the whiskers on that thing. S tier. I like this fish. Very good. Next up, the dandy lionfish. And this is literally just a lionfish. It's a cool looking fish, don't get me wrong, but where's the fun twist? When I hear dandy lionfish, I expect something floral, but then it's just this. It's literally just a lionfish. I mean, it's still alright, but it's lacking in its naming. D tier. Also, this fish is by far the hardest one to catch out of all the fish, and it really ticks me off when I try to catch it, and I'm just so mad at it. Next up, the winter fish, ice bream. As for its looks, it looks alright. It certainly fits its name, and it's kind of based off of a tuna, which is what its sprite looks like. But think about the use case of these guys. Imagine instead of water cooling your PC, you fish cooled it. Yeah, that's pretty baller, right? I want to put this fish to work. I just hope they don't form fish unions, which it kind of looks like it will. A tier. Next up, the Swedish fish. I'm not actually sure what this fish is based off of. It looks like a cross between an eel and some type of mythical dragon. It looks nothing like the Swedish fish, you know, the candy. Regardless, look at that mustache. As a mustache connoisseur, I must say it's rather dashing. A tier. Only because I'm not a fan of its mustard eyes, they're kind of haunting. The Lunar New Year event also gave us 2 new fish to rank. Well, they've been here forever, but the event just brought them back. The dappled and golden koi. And I'll be honest, koi fish are alright, but I don't really see the hype. They're just fat goldfish that live in ponds and make stupid faces. Ranking them based on their color schemes, however, I would have to put the dappled koi in B and the golden koi in C, simply because the dappled koi at least looks a little unique. Whereas the golden one just kinda looks like a goldfish. And I mean, I guess it's in the name, but I don't know, man. Alright, I think that's all of the standard fish in Don't Starve Together. Let's move on to the special... You guys know the 1,000-yard stare meme? That's the scorching sunfish. This little guy has been through some trauma with those haunting, giant eyes. Not to mention, having one of these guys living in your house would be a literal fire hazard. Imagine you're chilling, just doing your thing, and then your sunfish decides it's time to jump out of their aquarium and spontaneously combust your entire house. No thank you. F tier. Okay, now on to the special fish, or, well, special aquatic creatures. That being the 2 lobster variants and a few select shipwrecked fish. Starting with the final Don't Starve Together mob, the DST lobster variant. I have a soft spot for lobsters. As much as I find them delicious, I also find them adorable. Plus, the noises they make are actually pretty cute. A tier. Why not S? Because that's reserved for Shipwreck's lobster. It's literally the lobster but cartoonified. I like it. Very unique, very epic, very demure, whatever that means. I don't even know what that means. S tier content right here. Oh yeah, and the lunar lobster, which honestly I would put in S tier, because imagine for a second having a crazy living glass lobster as a pet. That would be pretty epic. Next up, the jellyfish. Unfortunately, a staple of the average shipwrecked player's diet after they obtain some insulation. But while it's alive and not being digested by hungry Wilsons, it's actually quite adorable, and is the only aquatic animal on this list to have a perpetual smile. I respect its good vibes. S tier. Next up, the rainbow jellyfish. The whole glowing thing and the rainbowness are definitely positives of this little guy, but I cannot get over that haunting face. It straight up looks like it's right out of a creepypasta. If I wake up at 3 AM and see this, I'm just gonna die. It still would be kind of unique to have them laying around the house though, so B tier, I guess. Now, I would rank the other shipwrecked fish properly, you know, the swordfish, the color trio, the sharks and whatnot, but the problem is you can't keep these fish as pets in-game, as when you catch them, they are always dead. And this is a tier list about what fish I would keep as pets, and dead fish aren't fun pets and probably would get pretty stinky very quickly. So, they all go in F tier. Okay, for real though, this list was actually very fun to make, but was obviously kind of a shitpost. But these are my genuine thoughts. I like that Don't Starve Together has all these ocean fish, but I do wish they did more than just be cosmetic. As it stands right now, fishing is only useful for two things: Wurts who want organic non-GMO thermal stones, and Pearl's questlines. Every fish is basically the same flavor but in different forms. It's realistic, sure, as is the pretty much dead oceans of Don't Starve Together, but realistic doesn't mean fun. In Shipwrecked, you can get some pretty serious powers from the color trio, and get super buffed if you combine all of them into this tropical dish. In fact, I think every single fish of Shipwrecked has a special property. There is no reskins there, besides the tropical fish who's a reskin of the freshwater fish. But in Don't Starve Together, you have a few groups that are just literally reskins. The guppy, squirt, baitfish, and fry are all reskins of each other. And the same goes for the mudfish, the bass, the lionfish, the Swedish fish, and the catfish. All reskins. There's no reason to catch one over the other. They all do the same thing as each other. It's flavor, sure, but it's not great. Even the special fish, the seasonal fish, and the spittlefish are actually highly ignorable. Imagine if eating the black catfish gave you a 50-50 chance of getting struck by lightning, because, you know, unlucky, or a chance of getting invisibility. So many more people would go fishing for this creature. Or even niche uses, like imagine if the bloomfin tuna, when eaten, would bloom wormwood, much like growth formula. It would give them a little bit more flavor and reasons to actually go fishing. Overall, the ocean feels incredibly lacking in Don't Starve Together. But that's a topic for another video that should be out very soon. I'm sorry for this somewhat shorter video. I just wanted to get this silly little idea out there since I've been fish posting a lot lately if you've been watching my shorts. If you want more content that may or may not be like this, you can watch this video on screen now. This has been Polarlotus, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.